the key fob she left in my suit pocket. I design buildings that pretend to forget where the exits are. Officially, I'm a physical security consultant. Badges, turnstiles, elevator logic that makes tourists feel like they're in a heist movie. Unofficially, I'm the person people call when they want a door to remember the right face at the wrong hour. Most weeks it's boring in a way that protects lives. Then there was the night Cass slipped a key fob into my suit pocket and asked me to help her choose which lie deserved to live. We met in a lobby where money had taught marble to behave. She crossed the floor with deliberate grace, the kind orchestras practice. Her hair made promises to anyone who stared too long. The ring on her finger was modest in the way expensive people think humility looks. She smiled the way a match does before it learns it's a fuse. "You're Ethan," she said, like a man she'd already decided would say yes. I glanced at the fob in her palm. Matte black, no brand, no serial visible. My designs don't use them. That meant it belonged to a system someone else had built or someone had paid to keep off my radar. "Depends on who's asking," I said. "Someone who prefers locksmiths to lawyers," she said. "I need access to 2 floors in a building that claims to have only one." "Whose building?" I asked. "Mine," she said, "and his." The pronoun held teeth. I understood before I let myself understand. Her husband owned 14 towers and a conscience he rented out. He was the man who shook hands in renderings. He also chaired the community board that keeps pretending to be a brake pedal. Me? I once declined his retainer because he wanted the kind of security that makes ethics a setting you toggle off. "Talk to me," I said. She led me to the bar as if we'd agreed hours ago. The barman didn't ask for her order. The lights made the room look like it had learned to keep secrets in graduate school. She set the fob on the marble between us and covered it with 2 fingers. "There's a private lounge," she said. "42nd floor. Not on the plans. Access is by fob and invitation from a man who pronounces integrity like an investment. I need to know who is using it after midnight, and I need to know before tomorrow." "Why me?" I asked. "Because you're careful," she said, "and because you've said no to him." "I say no a lot," I said. "Not tonight," she said, and pushed the fob into the breast pocket of my jacket with the kind of accuracy that can only be called choreography. She left without a backward glance, which is how you recruit a man who's been pretending to be immune. I took the job because curiosity is a religion and I am devout. Also because the way she looked at me when she said mine and has rewired a part of my day I thought was fireproof. I walked to the tower through weather that wanted to audition for a film. The doorman recognized me from bid meetings and let his face go politely blurry. Up the escalators, past the glass where people practice being busy, into the elevator bank that learns your name before you remember it. The fob hummed at the reader like it loved its work, 40 lit without argument. The doors sighed in a tone I designed years ago that makes people trust steel. On the 42nd floor, carpet swallowed bad intentions. The lounge door hid behind an art wall, oak slats, acoustic felt, the kind of touch you pay for when you're trying to pretend softness. I found the seam. The fob whispered yes. Inside, a room that thought it was a treaty. Low music, whiskey that behaved better than its owners, velvet that refused to look surprised, and cameras, 6 visible, 2 I felt in my teeth. He didn't hire me, but he loved my white papers. The layout used everything I've ever taught for a client who wanted accountability that could be edited in post. I didn't linger. My job was logs, not liaisons. I walked the perimeter like a fire that knows when it's time to be a candle, located the panel closet, and coaxed the access controller into accepting me as a guest with questions. Badge reads, floor calls, elevator recalls, silent diaries stacked minute by minute, names masked, numbers human enough to unmask with a shrug. The first thing I learned was that the lounge had two peaks, 8 p.m. and 1:13 a.m. The second was that after midnight, a credential flagged as Staff 2 opened from 42 into a stair core that only exists if you believe in bribed inspectors. The third was that the fob in my pocket belonged to a profile with all the usual privileges and one extra, Garage B2 after HOURS, a private descent. I pulled stills from the vestibule cam and felt my stomach discover a new verb. At 1:17 a.m., the man who owned the ring on Cass's finger exited the lounge with the mayor's developer liaison. At 1:19, they swiped into the stair, bypassed 41, 40, 39, and dropped into a corridor painted the gray you choose when you're pretending to be concrete. At 1:22, a woman followed, alone, hair like confession, dress like discretion, head down. If you clipped the frames without context, you could sell them to anyone's appetite. I sent the logs to a secure vault I keep for moments when I need to choose who I am. Then I left the way I came in, the fob warm like a live thought. At street level, rain rehearsed applause. I texted Cass a single word, done. She replied with an address that wasn't a home and wasn't work. I arrived to find a hotel that prefers not to be a hotel. She opened the door in a sweater that argued successfully with gravity and a mouth that learned how to be kind without lying. "What did we learn?" she asked. "That your husband likes stairs," I said. The laugh she let out lived somewhere between grief and gratitude. She took the fob from my pocket with a confidence that kept the moment from becoming a theft. Her fingers brushed my shirt in a way that made the room remember heat. "Show me," she said. I mirrored my screen to the television like we were about to present to investors. I showed her time stamps, stills, the way the controller breathes when it lies. I didn't narrate the frames where her husband looked like a man who loved privacy more than people. She didn't ask me to. She watched until her shoulders settled into a shape I recognized. The posture of someone who has been waiting for the truth to arrive without knocking. When the last still vanished, she sat on the bed and tucked one ankle under the other. There are gestures that do more with less. That was one. "Tomorrow," she said, "a story is going to drop. It will be about the mayor adopting a new security protocol because of an unspecified threat. My husband will be quoted elegantly. The lounge will briefly compete with the news cycle. I am supposed to smile in a photograph I did not choose." "You asked me for logs," I said, "not advice." She looked up at me like I'd given her permission to do an unkindness she needed. "It feels like advice," she said, in a language my body recognizes. We were careful with each other in the way people are when they've taken responsibility for their own oxygen. We were not cold. I sat beside her without touching. She put her palm on my wrist and traced a circle that felt like a yes I had earned. "Is this about revenge?" I asked. "It is about not being a prop," she said. "It is about not letting a room write me in as background color." We kissed eventually. It was not frantic. It was precise. Her mouth tasted like the Alpine gin she'd offered and I'd declined. My hands learned the edges of her sweater and stayed polite. Her fingers brushed my jaw, then paused at my collarbone, as if telling herself a story about restraint she wanted to believe more than I did. We laid down like a decision. The city didn't mind. There are nights it forgives your better judgment for remembering how to want. I left before the hour turned risky. In the elevator, she stood half a step from me, enough to let our shoulders exchange warmth without inviting the camera to try poetry. When the doors opened to the lobby, she squeezed my fingers once, a promise with clean edges. "Morning," she said, will be ordinary until it is. It was. At 9:07 a.m., a friendly outlet posted a piece about heightened security in the tower. At 9:12, they updated it with a quote from the mayor's liaison. At 9:19, another site posted 3 frames from a camera I knew I hadn't leaked. At 9:21, a reporter I trust pinged me a sunflower and the word "him." I ignored the urge to become a headline and opened my vault instead. You learn to recognize the fingerprint of a leak like you learn a lover's walk. This one had the rhythm of an insider who wanted to be thanked and the sloppiness of a person in a hurry. Someone had screen recorded the controller's status and redacted exactly enough to be salacious. I compared it to my export. It wasn't mine. I thought of the staff too credential and the stairwell painted in expensive gilt. I walked to the parking level because bodies tell the truth architecture tries to dress. In B2, a private landing I hadn't cataloged whispered its presence by smelling like detail spray and Triumph. A valet stand with no staff. A door with no reader. I pushed. It yielded. Beyond, a room that believed it was an apology, soft light, couch with secrets, a bar with obligations. A freestanding camera aimed at the couch blinked the way a thing does when it thinks of itself as harmless. I pulled the memory card and watched 2 weeks dissolve into 10 minutes. Adults making arrangements they told themselves were temporary. The mayor's liaison twice. A council member once. Cass's husband 5 times. No audio because whoever installed this wasn't cruel. The camera time matched the access logs down to the second. Whoever leaked the lounge frames had held back the garage. Either mercy or leverage. Likely both. On impulse that felt like ethics, I slid the card into my pocket, then put it back. I took the camera instead, unscrewed the mount, wrapped the cable, left the bracket, a body without a face. I locked the door on my way out and wedged the latch with a business card to confuse the first person who tried to return. Petty? Yes. Useful? Also yes. Upstairs, a security captain I almost hired once cornered me with a smile that said we were on the same side until we were. "You seeing what I'm seeing?" he asked. "I see a system doing what it was designed to do," I said, "telling the truth to people who paid for it." He winked like I had made a joke about lunch. "Boss wants a live monitor on the lounge till this blows over," he said. "You can bill overtime." I declined, then I called Cass. "Garage," I said. "Of course," she said, voice calm the way expensive insurance is calm. "Can you meet me where the city is?" We met on a footbridge above a canal that tries every summer to be Paris. She wore sunglasses that made the day forget her face. I told her about the camera, the card, my restraint. She listened like she stored tenderness in a safe deposit box, and only the right words opened it. "Thank you for not becoming evidence," she said. "What do you want to do?" I asked. "Not what he expects," she said. "He expects denial, then forgiveness, then stage-managed healing. I prefer choreography that makes him find his own balance." "You'll leave," I said. "I'll arrive," she said, "then I'll leave." We stood there a long minute while a cyclist cursed gravity and a tourist took 40 pictures of a dog doing absolutely nothing. When she put her hand in mine, it wasn't a plea. It was inventory. I squeezed back with the exact pressure I'd want if I were deciding who I was in public. The building turned on the building. The leak fed 2 days of programming. The mayor gave remarks about commitment to public-private trust. Cass's husband did interviews about resilience that made me want to make the word illegal. Cass called a board meeting she had the votes to control and announced that the Women's Initiative she'd been fronting would no longer be hosted by any entity she didn't run. She pledged its endowment to a clinic whose waiting room looks like a revolution. She didn't mention couches or cameras. She didn't need to. We saw each other between fires, in a diner where the coffee tastes like being alive, and the server sticks a sticker on your wrist if you tip in cash. We let our knees touch under the table, and electricity I rationed. We didn't pretend we were better than the heat we made. We were just careful to be good stewards of it. Your fob, I said, sliding it across the formica after omelets that didn't apologize. She took it, then pressed it back into my palm. You keep it, she said, as a reminder. Of what? I asked. That doors are only honest if you are, she said. The story didn't get a neat ending. They never do when adults try. The lounge still exists because power hates losing furniture. The garage door got welded, then unwelded. Money likes to breathe. Cass's husband lost his board chair and kept his tailored sorrow. The mayor won a smaller race and learned a new adjective. The city went back to selling afternoons to people who don't need them. She moved out of the glass box that made being married look like ad copy and into a place with a crooked hallway and a view of two trees that disagree about seasons. I helped her carry boxes because she let me, and that is a rare kind of privilege. We didn't kiss that day. We hugged like failing institutions, which felt honest. We still find each other on purpose. Some nights we remember the hotel and let our mouths keep the promise they started. We keep it graceful and charged and safe for an audience that will never deserve us. Some mornings we don't talk at all. We just text a photo of a door with the caption "mine," and both of us know which door the other means. When I pass his towers now, I glance up at the 42nd floor and remember that most rooms are only secrets until you decide you won't be. My hands stay in my pockets. My pockets remember a fob I no longer use. On bad days, I take it out and feel its weight and remind myself the door it opened also opened me. You asked for intrigue and heat and the kind of betrayal that doesn't make you a villain. This is what I have. A woman who refused to be scenery, a system that told the truth to a man who underestimated his own equipment, and a key fob that taught me consent is also an access level. The rest is maintenance. I still design buildings that pretend to forget where the exits are, and I still put one light on a timer that comes up at 1:13 a.m. A soft amber in a stair core that only exists if you believe in bribed inspectors. So that somewhere, some version of us can find each other again and choose the right door on purpose.